right, what is going on, guys? It is time for another episode of the Chasing Waypoints podcast. And well, this is a big one. I mean, technically, it's not the 100th episode because, you know, the Dakar Rally was like 16 episodes or something. I don't know. I lost count at how many episodes. I was doing 2 a days with that one. But officially, we're going to call this one episode 100 of the Chasing Waypoints podcast. And damn, has it been a journey. Let's turn down the party down a little bit here. We got to get the audio just right because we have got a special guest tonight or today for today's episode. I'm recording this before Sunday, but I hope you guys have been enjoying. So the whole plan was to basically associate race numbers with episodes numbers because we were kind of in that range. Well, you guessed it, episode 100. We got somebody very special on the phone. We're going to have somebody special on the phone here in just a moment. So I'm absolutely excited. I appreciate everybody that has liked and subscribed and shared the podcast, sent me messages, and kept this thing going. It's all of you guys that have helped motivate me even when it was like, damn, what am I going to talk about this week? So I'm absolutely stoked and excited that you guys have stuck with us this far with the journey and only more to come. So we'll be talking a little bit more about the projects and things that are coming up here in the near future. But in the meantime, man, we got to get we got to get some stuff going here. Let's see here. Let's see if we can get this dialed. We went away from the whole, let me see here, turn that up right about there. We'll mute that there. We're going to hit that there. Everybody's wondering, like, what is he doing? All right. So, as mentioned before, so we were talking about episodes matching up with what they are. So, episode 100, and I guess you guys know it. We're going to have none other than racer number 10 at the 2023 Dakar Rally, Mr. Skyler Howes. Let's turn this party down.
Yo.
Sorry, did I blow your ears off?
No, dude, all good.
I'm like, wait, I better turn the music down. This thing is like super loud in the headphones.
No, it's fine.
Nice, dude. All right, how are you feeling? Are you back on?
Pretty good.
Back in time now?
Dude, not really. Like, you know what's most frustrating is the whole entire time at the Dakar, we had to wake up at 2:30 in the morning, 3 o'clock every day. And then like on rest day, I couldn't sleep past, 5:30, 6. And then I come back and it's almost exactly opposite time schedules. So when I come home, I'm falling asleep at like 7:30, 8 o'clock, and I'm up at 3 o'clock every day. And it's so, I'm like, dude, I just want to sleep past 3 a.m. for the first time in a month.
I hear you. See, that's funny. That's my normal schedule, which worked when you guys were over there because, you guys were getting up. All right, cool. I'll do the stage previews. I'll do that. But that's crazy, though. But still, you guys were usually first out of the bivouac, right? So you had to be up. What was the earliest bivouac you guys had, like, to leave?
The earliest I had to wake up was 2:20 in the morning.
Dude,
but there was multiple days that I had before 3 a.m. like alarm clocks, and then almost everything was consistently between 2:30 and 3:30 for the whole race.
Damn, 15 days of that straight.
Yeah, gnarly.
Yeah.
And then we're going to sleep somewhere around roughly 8 o'clock every day. So decent amount of sleep, honestly, for, considering waking up that early. We got pretty much, a good amount of sleep. But the thing that's gnarly, like, for instance, they canceled that one stage because people were tired. And I saw a bunch of people online that were like, oh, I can't believe they canceled the stage because of people were tired. I'm like, dudes like Mo and a handful of the other Molimoto guys or just some of the other amateurs weren't coming in until, past dark, 9, 10, 11 o'clock, midnight. Paul Neff came in at like 2 a.m. one time or 1 a.m. or something like that. And then we have a 4 or 5 a.m. start the next day. So it's like people don't realize that, yeah, okay, maybe the elite guys, the GP riders are coming in at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, but there's guys that are coming in after dark too. It's pretty gnarly.
More of a decent time. Hey, but you know what? It's not a problem. Let's just raise $100,000, find a few sponsors, rent a bike from Bart, and you can try it for yourself. It's pretty easy, right?
Yeah, pretty standard. Yeah.
Yeah. Or pick up a Norden, right? And then just go ride 500 miles. No, what about, you guys were averaging about 350 miles a day? I think.
Give or take. There were some days that we had like 1,000-kilometer days, and then other days that were, like the thing that's a little bit, I don't know, like we had our shorter stages. We still had like 500-kilometer liaisons. So I don't think we had a day that was shorter than like 600 kilometers.
That's 62, 60s. Yeah. About 300-ish miles, a little over 300 miles. So
I think I think the total mileage is like 5,200 miles or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So divide that by 14.
So go ahead, ride that on your ride around town. And just kind of mimic the schedule and see if that's if the thoughts are still the same. So
and let's be honest, the Norden is pretty comfortable on the highway. The old rally bike, you got to duck behind the windscreen to catch the draft or to get out of the wind, and then you're transferring butt cheeks so your butt doesn't fall asleep and you don't get monkey butt. Got to stretch out the legs sometimes too. Yeah, it's awkward.
Yeah, you have to survive it. It's not like the bike was not designed for that.
No.
So something that I was kind of curious about, and I literally just thought about this as we started talking. It's 14 days, 15 days of racing. And now I know like the pre-race jitters and all of that happens. Does that happen 14 days in a row?
No, honestly, I was more nervous for the prologue because the prologue is, I actually really like what they did now. Before, you used to be able to play a strategy almost every single day. Mm-hmm. But now, like the prologue is reverse order from so top 10, if you finish inside the top 10, you get to choose your starting position anywhere inside the top 40. And before it was like top 15 only get to choose within the top 15. So essentially, if you finish first, you could choose 15th. Now, if you finish first, you could choose 40th if you wanted to. So it took away that strategy because technically, if you finish 16th, you could start 16th. Mm-hmm. But now that's not the case anymore. Now, technically, like finishing 11th kind of puts you in an okay position. Things like that, but anything outside of finishing inside, like say top 20 or whatever, then you're screwed. You're gonna have to start at the front of the pack, which was opposite. Normally, if you finish 20th, you would start 20th, like you'd start way behind. But now they basically made it so you literally had to do the best you could on the prologue. Mm-hmm. And before it was like you could go slow on the prologue and get a better starting position and just take the extra time or whatever. Mm-hmm. But now that, like, if you go slow on the prologue, you just get screwed.
Yeah.
So I was more scared. I was like more nervous because obviously like you have another 15 days ahead of you and prologue can make or break your rally. Like if you end up leading out the first stage, it could literally screw you for the whole rally, which happened to Ricky one year. Like he won the prologue, had to open the next day, and it like put him way behind from the beginning. Mm-hmm. And I totally screwed up the prologue and ended up having to open the stage. Like I had to start fourth. 2 guys in front of me I caught really early, and then Nacho was in front of me the whole rest of the stage. So I still had Nacho's track to key off of, which was nice. So I was able to go pretty high pace and not lose a lot of time, but I literally almost ruined my chances on day one because I had a bad prologue. And now with the time credit too, they like everything they've put in place, literally just gives you bonuses to doing the best you can instead of trying to go in slow on purpose or, trying to play this crazy strategy. It's just, it gives you bonuses if you just do your best. Like if you win stages or if you finish in the top 3 or you do good on the prologue or all that kind of stuff, they took away all that going slow on purpose type of stuff. I mean, there are some days that you definitely still want to, but now at the opening time bonus, that's what I tried to do the whole race, was just stay in that time bonus, and it played out pretty decent. But I was, as far as like nerves go, I was less nervous for the last day, even though it was coming down to those seconds and minutes.
That's so crazy.
I was less nervous for that than I was for the prologue. But I think it was just like, the nerves, the whole year has led up to this moment and it's just about to start. So like I was pretty stage 1. I honestly, like prologue all the way up until like stage 3 or 4, I had some pretty serious butterflies going, but after that it all mellowed out. And then I got more into that kind of, it is what it is mentality. Like literally you can only do what you can do. And it is what it is. But yeah, beforehand, I definitely had butterflies going pretty solid.
Dude, I mean, watching you guys ride, I mean, and I saw that you're out there having fun and all the interviews and everything that you did. Like anytime you were talking and all that stuff, it seemed, it's like you weren't. But I guess that's different. What's the helmets on and the.
I mean, here's the thing. Like I operate a lot off of positivity. Like some guys ride better when they're angry or something like that, and that's not me. Like I ride the best when I'm having fun and I'm enjoying what I'm doing and things like that, and the pressure's off and stuff. I think that's probably the biggest difference between last year and this year's. Last year I was way more focused on on being very serious and doing an exact strategy, and this year I was just like, look, there's so much that goes on that you just can't control. All you can do is do your best. That's it. And like, if at the end of the day, like you can't be angry with anything because you just did your best. There's stuff that you cannot control. You can't help it. So much stuff. And so for me, I was just like, I'll just do the best I can and enjoy every moment because, I said this in a couple of interviews before, what we're doing in the Dakar, like what I get to do is not a normal thing. And some people, dream. I have been there where you have to pay your way to do it. You have to pay $100,000, and however you have to get that $100,000 by sacrificing stuff. Like there's so many other people that do that or want to do it and can't. And I would be doing everyone like a big time negative if I didn't enjoy it. Like if I was complaining or whining about stuff or whatever, like that's just such a middle finger to all the people that want to try and do this. If I'm doing it and complaining about it, that's just messed up. So, my whole entire mindset for the whole thing was just do the best I can, control what you can control. And at the end of the day, like whatever the result is, it is what it is. Like, yeah, I would have loved to have been standing on that top step, but there's probably a handful of things that I could have done differently throughout the course of 14 days to give me a 5-minute boost, but I didn't. And I rode my best. I did what I could, and I came up a few minutes short. And at the end of the day, I cannot be angry at that because I literally just did the best I could. And I did what I thought was right on each day. And it landed me on the podium, which I'm extremely proud of. And that just gives me a little bit more experience and knowledge to go back and try to do better next time.
Yeah. Well, and absolutely. I mean, it's interesting you say, like, I mean, obviously the times that we've met, I've always been on the organization side of it and watching the rallies and watching people. And you can see what happens when you have one bad road book. I'll call it a bad road book, but meaning you had a tough time navigating, and it turns into this spiral and it downward very quickly, because the next day you've already got the past, you've got yesterday's road book still on your brain and how you screwed that up. So I can see what you're saying. Like, it is, I don't know if the correct terminology would be, it is what it is. And I did everything I could in my power, and on to the next one.
Yeah. And literally, like, I feel like a lot of what my mentality has always been. And because like in rally, you can't let stuff get to you. Like if you make a mistake, you can obviously get angry and just be upset that you made that mistake. But if you get angry and you're like, oh, I just made a mistake and now I have to make up that time, like you're going to just make more mistakes, or you're going to push yourself into some other type of error or crash or something like that. Like literally, if you make that mistake, all you can do is just be like, all right, well, it's behind me. Like, just do the best I can from this point forward. And hopefully that, I don't make any more mistakes. So, like there's no, I don't know, the way my brain works during a rally is so much more mellow and so much more at ease than you might think. Like I'm just riding my dirt bike out there. Like I of course want to win and whatever, but it's you against the bike, against the road book, against the clock. Mm-hmm. All the other riders out there are essentially having their own struggles. They're having their own thought process and all that kind of stuff. Like all you do is just do your thing as best you can. And like, it is what it is, that every single, let's say you have a bad day. Like I would say probably my worst day was I started second behind Luciano. Luciano was opening. And up until that point, the navigation was actually fairly, like it was difficult navigation, but you were able to open fast. You were able to open quickly. And on that day, it turns out, like I said earlier, I was trying to stay in this bonus zone. So stay in the top 3. And that day, the navigation turned out to be very tricky. And it wasn't like tricky that it was just impossible and you just couldn't figure it out. It was just, it slowed you down enough. And we laid down a perfect track that every single person behind us could go full gas for what we had to slow down and figure out. And before that, up until that point, you could actually kind of see where you were going and see where the road book was putting you. So you could open quickly. Mm-hmm. But this point where you were like in canyons and technical areas and stuff, you had to go slow to figure it out. Me, Luciano, Toby, like this is where 7 riders caught up, all like everyone, we had 7 of us all together, and that hadn't happened. We lost, a lot of time. I lost less time than I thought, but yeah, I just, like I said, that day was probably the worst day as far as losing time, and it didn't really like mess us up too much. And so from that point forward, I was like, all right, third to 6th place is kind of like a better zone. So that's kind of where I want to be finishing. 3rd place, probably the best, because you got 2 tracks in front of you. You can still be in that bonus zone and all this kind of stuff. And so, yeah, up until that point, I think, I don't know, like I said, my mentality works as just being, all right, well, this is what we're working with. There's nothing I can do to change what has happened. All I can do is focus on what's in front of me, and I operate off of positivity. So there's no point in being angry about what I've done wrong. I just have to brush it off and move on. Yeah.
And I mean, it's an interesting, that was something that towards the end, like when I was doing the updates, I started thinking about that. And I guess that is right. So there are going to be sections where even the time bonus, you don't really get as much out of it as you would in other sections. Right. So fast opening tracks, you'll definitely capitalize on bonus time. But when it's a slow opening track, the guys behind you will clear that bonus time. That difference isn't as much.
Right. So, but that's what I'm saying. So like, for instance, Kevin finished more in like the mid top 10 range pretty much consistently throughout the entire race. So he got much less bonus time than I did, but ended up like, doing well because he was able to make up more time by having the tracks in front of him. Mm-hmm. But like I was able to stay more consistent just because I accumulated like close to 15 minutes of bonus time, something like that. It was like, last time I checked it, I didn't check on the last days, but last time I checked it was like over 12 minutes. So I mean, yeah, without that bonus time, for one, would have placed way, farther down, much more of a yo-yo effect and all that kind of stuff. This time bonus was sick. It was super, super nice to keep the racing tight and, not have this big flip-flop within guys and have guys like hauling butt on one day, losing time on the other day and going through the pack on the next. Like, it kept things way more consistent. But like I said, like, Kevin had much less opening or bonus time than I did, but we were still super, super similar on time.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I think that it seems like it did away with that strategy for the most part. I mean, or at least it was definitely a curveball. I think everybody was feeling it out.
Yeah, there are some days like, the long dune days, you definitely did not want to open. So even though you got a time credit on those days, you could pretty much guarantee that you would lose much more than you were going to gain. If you look at the data from, I guess, previous times of opening long dune stages, you're almost guaranteed to lose somewhere around like 15 minutes. And with the time bonus, the maximum time bonus you would ever get would be like 5 minutes. So yeah, you're still going to lose 10 minutes.
10
or something.
Minutes is gnarly. Yeah.
Yeah. So you would much rather open a shorter dune stage or, a longer, not like regular tracks, like more soil, stuff like that. So there is still strategy to it. Like specifically on the day that I did that awesome no footer, I was intentionally trying to get a rear start position for the next day, because that day was only 115 kilometers. So I was getting the time bonus for that 115 kilometers, but the next day was like, 3 something, I think, or maybe it was 280. Yeah. No, it was like 289 or something like that. But it was almost all dunes. So I didn't want to like do super well. I wanted to be kind of in that sixth to 10th range. But the issue was, the no footer actually worked into my favor because I was trying to lose some time anyways.
Yeah.
But the thing that's really difficult with doing that, and this is also like, strategy is very difficult to pull off, because you have nothing to gauge yourself off of except for just your gut feeling or what the other riders are doing around you. So on that day specifically, we wanted to lose somewhere around 3 minutes, and that would have put us kind of in that like 6th to 10th range. But I was judging myself off of Tasha behind me and Toby in front of me. Well, Tasha had a transmission failure, so he didn't catch me. So I was like, man, I'm going slow, but nobody's catching me. This is strange. And then I started catching Toby. I'm like, oh crap, I'm going too fast. I was like, I don't want to catch Toby. But Toby was going slow, waiting for me to catch him because he was basing his speed off of whether or not I caught him.
Yeah, he was pacing you. Yeah.
Yeah, but I was pacing him also. So we literally paced each other going way too slow. So we ended up losing like 8 minutes that day instead of 3, which, looking back now, if we just did what our gut feeling was and went as fast as we thought we should have been instead of pacing off of each other, that would have been the difference between a win. Like we would have all that time that Kevin made on me, like that 5 minutes at the finish line, I would have been in front of him. Same with Toby. Like it would have been much closer between me and Toby at the finish. Yeah. If we would have just done our gut feeling instead of going, this cat and mouse thing with each other.
Yeah.
So those are the kind of things. It's like strategy. You do what you think is best during that day, but at the end of the race, you're like, man, if I would have just literally just this one thing, just rode my normal pace throughout that day, that could have been the difference between first or second.
Yeah. Well, and what's crazy though too, I mean, and I don't know, like for those playing the home game, is like you're literally one note away, because that's what happened in 22, right? There was a note in early on, and that's what ended up catching Ricky out and a couple of others out, right?
Yeah,
where everybody was kind of like half the field.
The top. Yeah. I got lucky that day. I ended up losing, I think, like I think total time spent lost that day for me was like 17 minutes. And then for the other guys it was like 45 minutes or more that they lost searching for that WPC. But the problem is like, okay, they're searching for a waypoint, but they lost, even if they couldn't have possibly found the correct track without hitting that waypoint. So essentially the waypoint was setting them back onto the correct track, but we're in the middle of the dunes, which have tons of different trails going through them. So you could hop on a trail, might get lucky and it'd be the right one, and you just take the whatever 20-minute time penalty for missing the waypoint, and maybe lose less time than you would have lost searching for the waypoint. But without that waypoint, you never would have known if you were getting back on the correct track and where. Yeah. Like how to reset your Odo and get back on the right mileage or whatever. So like that was really kind of a dumb move on the organization part by doing stuff, because they already play a lot now with the cap headings. Because we have your exit cap, your cap average, and your cap calculate, and the cap averages and stuff, they can play a ton. Like you can start out and you're going on the right cap. Technically, the general rule is that if you're more than 10 degrees off of the cap, you're probably not on the right track. But there's times that we got like way off, like 20, 30 degrees off, and then it came back and it was the right track. So like they already play a ton. And then they played with, okay, here's your exit cap. After 500 meters, you have change your cap to this. And then after stay on main piece. So that after stay on main piece just canceled everything you just did. So it's like they I don't know, they just play a lot. And this year they played less with that. Like the navigation was more on it. The hard thing is that there's so much information in those boxes now. Like you really have to focus to make sure you get all of it. But they are playing less with that. Like the WPCs are 300 meters now, which is much better, because before they were 200 meters. So like I think last year, if you were more than 1 degree off the cap heading, you were going to miss a waypoint, things like that. And like being 1 degree off is like, that's insane. Like that's, of course you're going to be 1 degree off. Like to be that perfect is gnarly. So, 300 meter radius is way nicer. And then not having these like quadruple notes in there, things that cancel it out, was way nicer too. So, but I mean, the navigation itself was difficult. It was like, it wasn't, I wouldn't say difficult. It wasn't impossible. It was just like, there's a lot of information. And if you put a road book from say 2018 or 19 up against a road book from now, and you'd be like, holy cow, like it's a completely different language. The road books from back then are way more simplified than they are now. Now there's just so much complicated information that you have to read.
Yeah, they were pretty vocal about it. Like, they were making it complicated to try and slow you guys down. And I mean, it seems like it's working, but it seems like, now they're putting 2 and 3 notes into 1 note. At least
yeah. The thing that's strange about it is they're making complicated navigation to slow us down, but what will slow us down is just more turns. So they have complicated navigation, but then they'll have sections where we just go like on a cap heading for kilometers. Like we're just going for a long way, like 15 kilometer, 20 kilometer distances on one cap heading, and then we'll hit on like some chots or dry lake beds, I guess. And you're just hauling in a straight line or something like that. So that's where we're saying like, look, if you want to slow us down, just don't have us go straight for so long. Like just have us turn more. The difficult navigation, it's already pretty difficult. Just have us turn more. That's essentially it. So maybe they'll
listen.
Maybe they'll do that.
Yeah. And so there's another one that came up too. There was the speed limit now, 160 kilometers an hour. at the total?
Yeah.
What's
I don't
yours?
know. Like at the very beginning when that first came out, I was so against it, and for good reason too. Like, okay, they're doing all this stuff to try and make it safer, and then they give us something that we have to manage on our own. So you have a light that blinks at you, and then you have to cut the throttle. So, you know, factory riders have a bonus into their ECU. We can program it to where it cuts the power and it plateaus out at a certain speed. So it makes it almost impossible. Like I still had one impulse at 161, but they give it to you for free. So you don't actually get the penalty. But like I had an overspeed and, you know, stuff like a lot of other guys had overspeeds just because you hit a downhill with a tailwind or something like that. And just even though we have in our programming a speed limiter, I guess, it's still possible for us to overspeed. So it's not like this cure all. It just holds us at exactly whatever speed limit's at 160. So it holds us at exactly 157 or something like that. That's not how it works. It just kind of plateaus the power out and makes it harder. So if you're on flat, like a dry lake bed going flat and it's hard packed, then yeah, it's going to stay pretty consistent. But if you're going over like rolling hills or you have like a tailwind or you're on soft ground and it all of a sudden hooks up on hard ground, you still have to manage it yourself because it's not perfect. Yeah. So factory guys have it a little bit better. So it's not like so much of a stress, but you know, say the amateur guys, they have nothing. They literally have to go off of a beeper. And say Mason doesn't have the programming, so he has a light hooked to a GPS, and anytime he gets within a certain range, the light starts blinking, and that helps him kind of modulate it, but he still has to manage it on himself. So I mean, picture yourself trying to go 100 miles an hour and looking down at a speed limiter and trying not to speed. Yeah. That's super dangerous. It's really dangerous for amateurs to take the focus off of where they're going at high speeds. You're already taking the focus off of where you're going to navigate more difficultly. Everything's more difficult. So, and then now you're just adding another thing to take the focus away from where you're going. I feel like that's more dangerous. However, you know, and also I think it's just worse for racing. Like there's so many other times that you could either make that difference by going fast, you know, and there's so many sections out there where we're literally just sitting there at 155 the whole time. Just like, dude, this is like, you could be stretching it a little bit and make up a few seconds here and there, or, you know, things like that, where it just keeps the racing more racing. And it's like, we're all just going the same speed. Yeah. And there's nothing you can do about it. You're not going to gain time. You're not going to lose time. You're just going to stay exactly where you are. And there is kind of a bonus to that. It's like a little break. You can get a sip of water and you're not like, you know, stretching yourself thin. And it's also easier on the tires and the mooses. And so there are some bonuses to having the speed limit. But the thing that they don't realize is anytime we're going over that speed, it's usually on flat, long ground that we can see where we're going. We're not going 160, 170 kilometers an hour through rock sections and through dunes and through sketchy areas. Like, we're going that fast where we feel comfortable going that fast. So I don't really know. They say that they look at the data and like the fatalities happen over a certain kilometer per hour, but I don't think the data shows that. Yeah. So I don't really know. I think this is more of just like something that they are trying to, you know, do. Like, here's the thing though, like we had a safe Dakar more or less. Like, yeah, we had some crashes and things like that, but you know, everyone made it home. Yeah. So that's definitely a positive side. And for me, I didn't get the feeling that the speed limit was a bad thing. I don't like it, but I don't have this like, you know, this is the worst thing ever. The organization needs to change it, blah, 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 blah. And,
I'm never coming back again.
Yeah. Whine and cry about it. Like, I'm not about that. I don't like it. But at the end of the day, you know, if they need to do something to try and if this makes it safer, then that's fine. But I don't see how amateurs that don't have the technology to, the bike manages it for you. I don't see it being safer. For us, it's like, it doesn't really take that much extra effort on our part to manage it. So I'm not really like, it doesn't really bug me too much. I don't like it, but it doesn't bug me. But anyone else that has to manage it on themselves, I definitely don't like it.
Yeah. I feel like that would be something that for maybe, like more the rookie, my concern initially with the speed limit like that would be that it's going to push people, or people are going to pressure themselves into going faster than they should be in sections leading up to a dry lake bed or coming off of a dry lake bed, because they feel like they lost time because everybody was at 160. It's like, street racing, right? Everybody's fast in a straight line.
Yeah, that's an idea that kind of all of us had, but there was like maybe 2 times that I found myself wanting to stay at the limit, but it was still in an area that I knew I could.
Yeah.
Like, I never found myself wanting to try and push up to the speed limit or trying to push that through sections that I didn't feel comfortable going that fast anyways. Like, I don't really think that was as much as a problem as everyone thought it would be. Like, everyone's like, I need to be going the speed limit all the time. Like, literally only a couple sections that I found myself doing it in. Like there was some silt pockets. Like, it was just a little bit rolling hills and stuff like that, where it was hard to even get up to the speed limit. And I knew, like, if you could be at the speed limit, you would make up a few seconds. So I just, you try to find those hard lines and get traction and get up to the speed limit.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the only time I ever found myself like really trying to like push it. But the rest of the time, like, you just ride whatever you feel is comfortable, because there's no chance, like, if you try to push that speed limit, you're just going to destroy yourself. So I don't think that was as big of a problem as like a lot of us thought it would be.
Yeah. A step in the better direction compared to the tire rule that they had a couple years ago. So we think.
Yeah, I think the tire rule was freaking the worst idea ever. I still don't like. There has to be a better solution to manage speed.
Mm-hmm. Like
just having a straight speed limit for people that can't manage it, or that have to just manage it by their wrist. There has to be a better solution. The only solution is the technology, like the manufacturers, specifically KTM, Husqvarna, that have like rental bikes or customer bikes. They just make that technology on a production bike, which would be incredibly hard and expensive, because we just got it.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's like, I don't really have an answer for that or know how it's possible, but there has to be a better solution than just having you manage it by your wrist.
Yeah. I feel like it only works if the bike is fly by wire, because then it can curve the throttle input. Anything other than that, like if you put a hard like a rev limiter in it, at a lower RPM or lower at a different gear ratio, it's going to react differently. Like, oh, don't go past 14,000. Well, 14,000 in 6th gear, you drop 500 RPM. That's 4, 5, 6, 7 miles an hour, or 10 kilometers an hour. That's going to put you way down. So it's not as easy to do. So
no, and then you shift down into 3rd, and then it's like, oh, limit it at 14,000 or whatever it is, and then all of a sudden you're just like going over the bars because it just cuts power randomly.
Said nope.
Yeah.
So after was there a point in the rally that you were like, okay, it's game on? Like, okay, everything that we did in the I'm going to call it the off season, but you guys were racing the whole time. That you're like, okay, everything's led up to this. This is, I feel like I'm ready to go. The bike's ready. Everything is good. Like the plan fell into place. Was there a point in the rally where you felt that?
I don't know. The thing is like, I've always felt capable. Once I got, that's, when I got my 9th place, I knew I was capable of more, but I broke the bike in half. Like, I had pretty serious, like, mechanical issues. I was on a 100% stock bike. Mm-hmm. So I knew I was capable. Like I got a couple really good stage finishes and like did decent overall, but I had like major adversity just from bike stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And so I knew I was capable. And then when I went back and I got fifth, I was like, all right, my own mistakes kept me off the podium. Like literally 100% my fault. So I was like, all right, if I'm on the correct equipment, and that was essentially just like that bike that I was on that year had a closed ratio 6-speed. So it wasn't the huge like overdrive 6-gear.
Mm-hmm.
It was like a normal 6-speed transmission and then just suspension, but it wasn't like a factory bike. It was just suspension that was set up for me and then closed ratio 6-gear. And that, I got fifth and I was like, all right, sick. Like I know I'm much more capable. So then we switched to the new bike. Like I signed the contract, we got on the new bike. Well, technically I got my podium at Silkway. So I was like, all right, but still made some mistakes at that race. And like at Kazakhstan, I had a moose failure. So there's just a lot of times that the pieces of the puzzle, I wasn't putting them in right. And all that is just kind of learning lessons, getting more experience, yada, yada. Then we changed to the new bike and definitely were struggling on setup for quite a while, like got some pretty poor results there for a little bit. And then we got into a pretty decent, zone for the Dakar last year. And then again, like, it doesn't matter how much preparation you put in or whatever happens, like you can just, regardless if you're pushing or not, sometimes you just like I had a crash this year and I don't even know what I hit. I got up and I tried to look for the rock that I hit, couldn't find it.
Yeah.
It was like on flat ground and I crashed. I was like, dude, I couldn't tell you.
Yeah.
So sometimes just stuff happens. So I jumped into a dune compression that you just couldn't see. So, what do you do?
Yeah.
So after that, like putting in a lot more effort in my training, I did more motocross. I did some motocross training. I hired a personal trainer, I still didn't do 100% of what he asked me to do. I didn't do like a perfect job of my training. And it's something that I'm still working on trying to do better at too. But having much more of a structured plan, I think helps the most. And I think that's all that really changed for this year is that I knew I've been capable of a good result. I just kind of put the pieces of the puzzle together. And I still didn't do it perfectly. Like obviously made a couple bad calls and the strategy I wasn't really 100% on, but the pieces of the puzzle just came together. And like I said, I don't think it was like, all right, yeah, now it's the time and everything, all I've ever worked for came up to this moment. Like I just did what I knew I could do. And I think I was just better prepared, more experienced, a little bit, in better shape and confident on the motorcycle because we've been testing so much and just kind of, I think at one day at a time, just kind of kept banging the hammer and put it together a little bit better. But I didn't have this feeling of like, oh yeah, this is like, I'm so much more prepared and this is what we prepared so much for. And this is all the hard work. I think it was just more consistent confidence and over the course of 15 days, just banging the hammer more on what we've already kind of laid the groundwork for. And just, like I keep saying, just put the pieces of the puzzle together.
Yeah, and that I'm looking at it, I'm just thinking like all of the progression and where, you started when you were there going with Garrett and then, the BAS team and all of that progression. And yeah, I was curious about that. Like if there was an aha moment, but all your results and everything has just kind of shown that it's just been this consistent climb to where we're at or where you're at now.
Yeah. And I think it's definitely important to look at it that way too, because I don't know, there's always those drawings of like what you want success to be like. And it's just this straight line of going up, but what success actually is. And it's all these loop-de-loops and big holes and, mountains and spikes and all types of crazy stuff that you have to get through. And essentially that's what it is. And you have to be okay with that. it's tough too, especially looking at other people who have had a lot of success early on, and then they start to expect it. And then it's like, look, dude, like, no matter what you do and how much you get given or what your circumstances are, like, the path to success is not the same for everyone. What struggles might have been for me, it might not be for the other person, but it's also the exact, same, but in different order too. Like, you might have success early on and then have some struggles, or yada, yada, yada. Like, you have to just be okay with the process. And I think that's a lot, like I said, control what you can control. Just be okay with it. The same way I attack a rally, you just have to attack life with in general. Just literally do what you can do. And yeah, I've had success along the way, but I've also had, pretty serious struggles, and been super fortunate enough to have people like Garrett and Bart and, all the other people in my corner, Mike and a handful of these other people that help me out financially and getting sponsors and just keeping me afloat to be able to do that kind of stuff. But there was major learning struggles.
It looks easy from 30,000 feet.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So it's like, there's major learning struggles in through all that kind of stuff. And that's what I'm saying. Like, yeah, I don't think it was this big aha moment. It was just more or less like stuff that I've accumulated over the years, and lessons that I've learned by failure or by success as well. Just, came together more in a organized and like seamless fashion, rather than either luck or something else. It was just like, look, this is what we prepared for. This is what I've learned, and this is what I do. And I still learned a lot this race. Like, there was still so much more that I probably could have done better and could have done differently and stuff. And that's just, more notes in the book that I'll take back to next year and try to bang the hammer again and just go a little bit faster, or just do a little bit better,
Yeah. Yeah, that's an interesting one. And I was talking to Mason earlier in the week, and we were specifically talking about that, like how there was, for him, like coming into this year's rally, it was about building speed and getting faster. And obviously, I mean, his results showed, that, he's up top. He was able to put the bike on the podium, and do that. And then, this year, struggling in the dunes, the dune riding and that side of it. And now, like, okay, now my homework is dune riding. So, I'm seeing that. And I know that you've mentored and worked with him a lot as well. So I feel like some of that's maybe rubbing off on him. Like, okay, just keep going, focus on the things you need to focus, which is awesome to see.
Yeah, it's a bit of a touchy subject, that kid right now. Yeah. The first week, I got to give respect where it's due. He definitely did an incredible job to open at that speed, to go as fast as he was doing, to win a stage, like all that kind of stuff. That's super, super impressive. But I really felt like what he was doing, like all of us were telling him, like we were watching him take major risks. And so all of us were telling him, like, dude, you got 10 days left to go still. Like, you gotta, relax, like chill out a little bit. And so, trying to have be his coach or mentor or whatever you want to call it up into this point, I was really proud of his results and stuff. But after like the whole situation with his crash, and then how everything happened after, and then I don't know, his mentality now, like I don't want to get too deep into it. I don't want to say too much, but like, it's tough. It's tough because you got kids, right?
No, I don't.
No,
well, I've made it this far.
Well, having it doesn't matter how much you tell someone or you say, look, this is the way you do it. They're going to learn however they're going to learn. Yeah. And they're going to make their own decisions. They're going to act their own way and all that kind of stuff. And when, it doesn't, I don't know. I want Mason to be responsible for his success and his own stuff. I want him to be responsible for it. So I've, as far as being a mentor and like being a coach and stuff, I've definitely let him take the reins.
Mm-hmm.
This whole almost last year, I took a big step back and I said, look, dude, like, you're going to have to make decisions on your own and stuff. And I think a lot of his progression came from that, like making decisions within his own team, like his own family and his own mind and stuff like that. And, and he has to also be okay with, I mean, we've all had Dakars we didn't finish either. Mm-hmm. And me and him had a big conversation at rest day. Cause I was actually pretty nervous about him. Like he dingered himself twice in a day.
Mm-hmm.
And he couldn't move without moving his whole body. Like he couldn't move his neck independently. So I was actually pretty nervous about him. I was like, dude, like you're kind of one mistake away from having a serious issue here.
Mm-hmm.
So we had a pretty serious discussion about safety and what are you actually doing here?
Mm-hmm.
Like you want to come out here, you want to have a good result. You want to finish all your Dakars. Yeah. But at what cost,
Yeah.
Like at this point, you're dropping so much time. It's not necessarily like, dude, his pace was not super far off in the dunes anyways, like when he was fully healthy,
mm-hmm.
but he was dropping times because dude, his brain and his neck was just not in a good spot.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't say like he needs to work on his dune pace because that's when he was losing time. I think he was losing time because his brain didn't know where he was at. Like, he dingered himself twice. So like I said, like, it's a bit touchy because you don't want the people that you coach or the people that you mentor to have struggle, but those struggles and those failures, like that's what taught me to like have the mentality that I have now and have the respect for the race, the respect for the other racers
mm-hmm.
and stuff like that. And, those come to ground moments kind of give that little check to you, I guess, that make you realize like, look, no, the desert doesn't care who you are. They don't care who you think you are. Like the Dakar, I said this to Mason when we were training before his first one. I was like, the Dakar doesn't care. It doesn't care if you are having a tough day or you're not happy with this or yada, yada, yada. Like the desert, it's the same thing Sam said before the race, and it sucks because it bit him the day one, but the desert is a harder competitor than any other person out there. Like, and that was the biggest lesson that I was hoping that, he would learn. And then I don't know, he's been making some comments lately that I'm definitely a little a lot of it disappointed with what he's been saying and stuff. So, like I said, it's a bit touchy because I want the kid to have success and all that kind of stuff. But at the same time, it's like, do you have to be I don't know, if you want to be a professional and you want to do this, like you have to act like it too. So it's tough because like I said, he did such an incredible job that first week. And then I guess that crash really, took it out of him and was a hard hit on the brain. And I've been there before and all that kind of stuff. And I appreciate his motivation to soldier on and push through it and all that kind of stuff. And then I also appreciate his decision to understand that it was a smarter call to stop his race and live to fight another day too. So I don't know. Like I said, yeah. I've taken a big step back and want him to make his own decisions. So we'll see how it goes.
Well, I mean, and honestly, with what you've done and after hearing what you're saying, that it's part of, I'm a firm believer that there's like this laundry list in the cosmos or wherever, you want to believe. There's this huge laundry list of things you got to go through that are going to make you the person that you are. And
mm-hmm.
that's, I feel like that's kind of like what you're saying in that, hey, yeah, I kind of took a step back and let him do, but but it's a noted result, exactly like what you said is like, hey, okay, this is where he was at last Dakar. and then this is where he was at this car. He last, rookie, won the rookie class, won Rally 2, did all of this stuff. And then this time they threw him in with GP, and then he's up on the box. He's up in the front. He's doing all this. So these decisions and all of these situations that he's gone through leading up to it have gotten him to this. And I agree. I mean, I can only imagine. I didn't know what it was like. There was an offline chat about, him being on the rest day, or I don't know if it was at the rest day or it was at the, what was it, on the marathon stage? I think that we were talking about that, like, oh, well, I personally believe, like, well, I'm sure Skyler's probably around there somewhere. They know each other. So if Skyler saw something, he would probably say something. And it sounds like maybe that's what happened. But I agree that the desert, in any desert in the world, if you are trying to race through it or ride through it at speed, it is waiting for you. No matter how good you are, it is waiting for you. And I think that was probably the smartest decision to be made, because literally could have been just one more fall, one more incident. And, we're not going to go that, that was the last incident, but it could be one more incident. And now you're talking about missing 2 Dakars and a whole season because of that one last kilometer that you wanted to get in. So.
Well, the best advice that I ever got was from Kurt Caselli, and he said, every single time you throw your leg over a bike, it's a business decision. And, could that business decision change your race? Could it change your season? Could it change next year? Could it change your life? You have to make these choices. You have to make that business decision on whether or not it's a smart choice to continue to push hard, to take that risk, or, whatever it might be. And so, yeah, I think, like I said, all of those lessons and things that I, experienced or went through or whatever, and taught me respect and humility and things like that, and made me into the person that I am today now, or, whatever, dedication, motivation, all that kind of stuff. I think it's important. I wouldn't want someone to go through the exact process that I went through, because I feel like I definitely learned a lot of stuff the hard way, and there's a lot more of a blueprint now to follow, I feel like, of how to do things a little bit more properly. And I think that's a direction that I really wanted Mason to take. And that was the really cool thing, that, he definitely took a lot of my advice on what to do and how to do it and stuff. And like I said, he made that transition. So that's always the biggest question, right? Like, okay, you've won the amateur category. Like, how are you going to do when you step up and you have to really put it together? And the difference is also you have to sustain that for the course of 15 days. So being able to go out first fresh, and throw down some heaters is super impressive, but you also have to sustain it too.
Mm-hmm.
So that's all those long lessons and stuff that I hope he gets the experience to keep learning and stuff. But man, I also really hope he learns lessons about a little bit of humility and a little bit of I guess humility is the right term, because I think that's also very, very important for especially a rally racer, because there's so much that can, so many harsh lessons that will teach you that you're just a normal, you're human out there riding a dirt bike. You can have some pretty serious reality checks out there.
I can only imagine. And the terrain that you guys were racing, just kind of looking at it that way, I mean, you spend a lot of time with yourself out there.
Dude, you really get to know who you are as a person when you're riding on the highway, on a perfectly straight highway, when it's freezing cold for 4 hours. A lot of people wear noise canceling headphones and stuff, but I can't. I got sensitive ears, so I have to wear my earplugs.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just alone with my thoughts every day. Really definitely start going nuts and going
Yeah.
I just start singing random songs and like going crazy.
I haven't sung that since kindergarten.
Yeah, exactly.
So, I mean, we're running. I know it's getting late for you, but there's really three things that I wanted. And one was actually kind of what you just touched on. So just super quick, like, okay, I wake up at 2:30 in the morning. What's the routine? Like, what, what does that look like? Can you kind of paint a picture of what a typical rally day looks like from your view?
Yeah. So I had a incredibly awesome structure this year. So I had my buddy G come with as my camper driver and like essentially like my helper for the whole race.
Mm-hmm.
And so I would wake up probably 10 minutes before my actual wake up time.
Mm-hmm.
And having like a camper, I can take a shower. So I would wake up first thing, just rinse off real quick. And that would kind of just, get me awake so I could function and be motivated properly enough to get all my checklists done in the morning. So first order of business, wake up, hop in the shower, rinse off. And then as soon as I get out of there, put my gear on and get probably 70% geared up. By about that time, G would bring breakfast in. So I didn't have to go out and go to the bivouac catering or anything like that. G would bring the breakfast to me.
Mm-hmm.
So then I would just sit down, eat the breakfast, stuff all that in my face. As soon as I was done with breakfast, get all like the rest of the way geared up. The day before, I would already have like my hydration pack, my jacket packed, goggles prepped, helmet, everything else like ready to go. So the only thing I have to do in the morning is essentially just put it all on. And then the majority of the race, I would put like this nice down jacket made by Mira. I put that on and then some rain gear on too, because it was always either raining or it had just rained. So it's a lot of moisture getting splashed by cars or something.
Mm-hmm.
And then about that time, I probably had like 5 minutes of free time to kind of like, get focused a little bit. I mean, yeah, you're getting on the bike just for the liaison, but kind of like, I don't know. Like I said, I like to operate with less stress and more positivity. So I kind of like zen out a little bit and just get a little bit focused in and then hop on the bike, put the road book in and then start. So I usually woke up an hour and 10 minutes exactly from when I had to leave the truck to go put the road book in at the start of the stage. So if my start time was, 3:30, I would wake up at 2:20 kind of thing.
Nice. So everything was just kind of like everything was structured and accounted for. You knew, there was, I could see, yeah, there would be a lot less stress with that. Not forgetting anything.
Every single day, as soon as I would finish, G would wash my helmet and boots, and then I would get new gear, all like fresh underwear, everything, and just stack it up on the seat and restock my jacket with all my nutrition stuff. I had a Ziploc bag that my girlfriend Kelly put everything together. She put like all my applesauce packs, goos, Cliff bars, like all that kind of stuff together beforehand. So all I had to do is grab that out of the box, stuff it in my jacket, and then make a new, hydration pack, put my element hydration mix in there and stuff like that. And then, so literally all I had to do in the morning was just put it all on. I didn't have to like prepare anything.
Yeah. One less thing. And then so you come in, G handles that. You would hand the bike off, obviously. And was there any like basics on the bike? Like would like a debriefing, like, hey, I noticed this, or I might have hit something a little hard. Don't yell at me, but just check it, please, kind of stuff? Or
dude, on that note, I hit a rock doing about 130 kilometers an hour. One that I didn't see, it was like in the sand, and I hit it felt like a square edge, but it was definitely a rock. I hit it so hard that it launched me into the air and deployed my airbag.
Ooh.
So I'm going 130 kilometers an hour, drill a rock, it deploys my airbag. I keep racing. When I came into the bivouac later, I had like put a triangle dent into a front wheel, and I broke. I bent the rear wheel so far that it broke a corner of the rim off. Like I drilled this rock so hard that it broke the rear wheel. Like it was
you don't see that
gnarly.
often.
No, dude. Like I hit so hard that it deployed my airbag. I was like, holy crap. I didn't like even, it just launched me into the air. So I got super lucky with it. Like it wasn't even really close to a crash when I got down. It broke the rear wheel.
Dude.
So, but yeah, anytime that I would come in, we would have a debriefing on like, okay, how's the bike? Do we want to make any changes? Do we have any crashes? Are there any areas that we need to focus on as far as like maintenance? But my mechanic, Louis, he's so incredibly thorough that I literally wouldn't even have to tell him. He goes through every single little tiny thing on the entire bike. And if I didn't say a word, he would find it.
Nice.
He would find something that like if I fell on the left side and there was something slightly wonky, I wouldn't even have to tell him. He would find it. He's so thorough. It's gnarly.
Dude, that's something interesting. Like growing up racing, I mean, and the whole family, everybody on your end, you've been around motorsports for a long time. And that, was there a transition period, like learning to trust him, or was it pretty like you talked to him a couple of times and you're like, okay, this guy knows what he's doing?
Yeah, if there was a transition period, it was very short. Like my very first experience with the team is when I went over and tested to like get set up, get my base setting for when I first started. Louis was there, and I already started working with him, and you could see kind of like his work ethic and stuff. And then my first race with him, I caught that. I caught how precise he is, and I was like, oh yeah, there's like, I don't know, I don't have to worry about anything. Yeah, because actually when I do my own work on my bike, I'm actually more worried about it, because I'm always in the back of my head, like, I mean, when I'm really thorough also when I do my own bike prep. I consider myself a pretty decent mechanic, but I double and triple check everything. But then while I'm riding, I'm like, did I though? Did I triple check it? Did I I'm always in the back of my head, but when Louis doing it, I have zero. I know he's done an absolute perfect job. So I don't, it's not even in my brain at all.
Yeah. That's a crazy thing. Like I remember growing up when we were racing Baja Bugs, I had to earn my way I was the official parts washer, and it took a year before I was allowed to even work on the car. And then the front end became my thing, and then suspension and all this. So I kind of see how like it takes a while before somebody trusts you with your bike, or, with anything mechanical, especially if you're racing and you're depending on it, so yeah, I was kind of curious about that. I'm like, how does that transition work? But that's awesome. I mean, I did see the video. I understand from the bike build breakdown on pricing that there is no price for his talent.
Dude, Louis, like I can't even put it into words how gnarly he is. Yeah. Like, it's not that he's just a thorough mechanic. Like that's his bike, and you don't touch his bike. I'm only allowed to ride it, but like
he lets you borrow
I'm serious. Dude, people will come in and like, so how's it going? And like put their hand on the handlebar, and Louis like, don't touch my bike. And he's not joking around. He's like, don't touch the bike.
He's dead serious. Nice.
And there was one time that he had like a little bit of a medical deal in Morocco, and he was like pretty wiped out and couldn't re-prep my bike. And he would physically like put himself into the hospital working on the bike rather than let someone else do it.
Wow.
Like I'm telling you, he's so gnarly. And that right there, like I said, like we have this thing, like you do your best, I do my best. And his best is absolutely, like I said, he would rather, he'd rather go to the hospital than let someone else do the work, or to like kind of half-ass something. He's gnarly.
Yeah. And it's crazy to think that there's it does take that, because there's so many like little details, like, oh, you go a few Newton meters too tight on the triple clamp and now the suspension's going to bind at the top, or, you're going to have like, there's all these little things that go into a setup of a motorcycle or dirt bike or even a rally bike. It just has more things than a regular dirt bike. So I can imagine. And then of course, if there was ever a failure, that it sounds like he's somebody that's going to take that extremely personal.
Big time. Like if there's anything wrong, I've already seen it. Like even if I come in and like the lever isn't positioned properly, and I say, "Hey, dude, can I grab an 8? Can I, reposition the lever?" He's like, "Oh," you can already see in his face, like, "Oh, I didn't do it." Like
he gives you the stink eye.
Yeah, it's like he knows me so well that I don't even have to check anything. Like he's got my brake pedal, my levers, everything like super dialed. So if I have anything and I come to him and I'm like, "Hey, this isn't right," he's like, like, "No, I can't be." Like, it's impossible that it can't be right. So
it sounds like you would have to start the conversation like, "Hey, Louis, I'm curious to maybe try the lever being a little higher."
Yeah, exactly.
You have to, a little bit of sales there, just so it doesn't get nice. Okay, last two. The third one is a short one, but this one. So, what's the game plan? What's next on the calendar? Are you doing the whole series? Where are we going to see you next?
Dude, the calendar is stacked. It's like, we just finished the biggest race in the world. You want a little bit of downtime,
right.
But
get back to a normal sleep schedule.
Yeah. So I'm already like full swing into training again. So we got essentially like a week of being lazy, and now I have to really buckle down and get back to it. And then I go to Austria next week for like the debriefing and celebration. Mm-hmm. Then I come back, and then we go to Abu Dhabi. Before Abu Dhabi, we're going to do a little bit of, training and testing. Mm-hmm. So spend a couple weeks back over there, come back. In between there, we have another training and test. Then Sonora. And then in between Sonora and, Route to 40, then there's like 2 more. Plus, I'm planning on doing like a big training camp in Holland with my buddy Bart that has his gym and all that kind of stuff. Do some motocross, some sand track training there.
Nice.
Then depending on what the team wants as far as like material and all that kind of stuff, it'd be tight, but I'd like to do Vegas to Reno, but it's pretty close to Route 40. So depending on what their schedule is and what they want me to do there, I might do Vegas to Reno. We'll see. Everything else is like pretty tight in there. And then we'll also see about like Silver State 300 too. If I'm free and it's not too tight between, Sonora and that kind of stuff, then I'll try to do as much best in desert stuff as I can.
Nice.
Route to 40, in between that, then we have more tests and trainings, and then Morocco. After Morocco is our main test to get everything ready for the next year's Dakar. So like literally, I think July is the only month throughout the whole year that I don't have some type of week or 2 week long either test, training, or race.
Wow. Yeah. So stacked to say the least. Yeah.
Yeah. So July technically counts as the off season.
Yeah. Okay. Perfect. Yeah. What a long off season.
Yeah.
And I'm sure there's probably going to be some bike riding involved there.
Yeah. Big time.
Yeah. So that's brings up a question. So for Vegas to Reno, I saw Ricky do it. Have you done it already on the rally bike or not yet?
Yeah, I did it this last year on the rally bike.
Do it again, or are you going to go back to standard?
No, if I do it, I'm doing it specifically either to test or to either test product or bike setup or something like that. Gotcha. Or specifically training on the rally bike. So if I do it, if I do Vegas to Reno, it'll always be on the rally bike from now on.
Nice. Yeah. Well, I think, I feel like the desert testing and just I don't know. I feel like it's one of those things like that's what I ride. That's your ride. So it probably feels goofy to get on the regular bikes now, right? That are non-rally or.
Yeah, dude, if I get on a regular like motocross or like my desert bike or whatever, I feel like I'm on a 65 for one. And we have those tank pads, like the rear tank pads that we can brace up against.
Yeah.
They like go up on our calves. Dude, I'll get on my regular bike and I'll like hit a whoop or hit some jump or whatever and go to lean back against those and I'll almost fall off the back of the bike because I'm so used to the rally bike.
Yeah.
So it's a big transition for me to go from the rally bike to a normal bike now because I ride the rally bike so much. Mm-hmm. I get so used to it that when I get onto a normal bike, I feel like I'm riding a 65.
Yeah. Oh, this is cute. Yeah. I finally got Project 501 going, and I went around the block the other day, and I'm coming off my 790, obviously not a rally bike, but it's got the raid kit. So it's similar to I don't know. It's just got a big ass tank on the front of I mean, you've ridden the Norden, and getting on the 501, I'm like, this is really weird. Like, where's the rest of this bike?
Yeah.
So I don't know, but I just need to work on motorcycle skills, so it doesn't matter what I ride. I just and then do some navigation. So I was going to ask if you guys are doing, or if you were planning on doing any kind of like, I know previously you had done like a clinic and maybe did some road book training. For people that were interested in that, but it sounds like Husky's got you pretty booked up.
Yeah, I'm pretty booked. I've got a handful of people that have asked to do either road book training or riding schools and stuff, which is something that I did a lot in the past. Mm-hmm. But these days, like if I am home, it's usually for like a week or two, and I only have like a weekend free type of thing. Yeah. So I typically I'm trying not to book that up and trying to just like enjoy time with just at home with my family and stuff.
Oh, for sure.
But nice. Maybe towards Dakar, like maybe in November or something like that, depending on the schedule. Hold on, let's look. See if we can do something. No, November we're big time booked. Yeah. So yeah, that's highly unlikely that we'll do.
Yeah, any of that.
That I will be involved with doing another thing like that, because also I'll have to make some new routes, new road books, and then also put that together, which is not really like a huge deal. The road books are time consuming, mm-hmm. but it's just the organization to make sure that everything's all good to go. And we spend 3 or 4 days out there and doing like a proper training. Cause that's the biggest thing that I think also was a change in everything is, quality over quantity. Mm-hmm. Like putting your face in front of a road book is very important, but also putting your face in front of a proper road book, I think is more important.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And especially with what they're throwing at you guys, the notes. I remember last year that was a big, like a lot of people did talk about that and how complicated the notes have gotten, with multiple notes basically wrapped into one. So mm-hmm. yeah, I could see that.
Well, I think that's the biggest difference too. Now that I've noticed, I've done so much world round type stuff, is like a lot of the way we do things or the way people think is the right way to do things here in USA or just in North America in general is just not either the cleanest way or there's more than one way to skin a cat for sure. I don't want to say it's not the right way to do things, but if the way that, I don't know, the proper way to train and the proper way to do things or the proper way to like build or where to spend your money and all that kind of stuff. Like I said, it's just all come with experience over the years. And so that's my biggest thing on training now is I would rather spend the time to make sure it's done 100% properly and we're not wasting anyone's time or money or whatever. And everyone has the right information rather than, here's some road books. There's probably going to be mistakes in them, but that's the adventure, yada, yada. Yeah, go for it. Whatever. Thanks. And then, it's kind of not really getting the proper information as far as how to do things. And that's the other thing too, like how to do a world round or what's necessary and what's the right way to do things and stuff like that. what's more important for me now is getting the right blueprint to follow rather than just a ton of random stuff, you know?
Yeah. Well, no, and I could see, I mean, it can be complicated enough. And so at least putting that together, that blueprint, you kind of straighten the road out a little bit instead of there being all these, you know, different variations, you know, try this or do that. Or like you said, you know, yeah, there's mistakes in the road book, which there's going to be. I mean, that's just part of it, but it's another when you can control it, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and that's the thing too. I think given as far as like road book specifically or like a training specifically, is doing it more in a world rally type or like a Dakar style is way more important, because I'm sure if you talk to the American Rally original guys, they did their damnedest to prepare as much as possible between Kota, Sonora, Baja Rally, all the training in between and all so much stuff. And then I'm sure you have or will talk to most of them. Like the Dakar is an animal. I mean, like the hardest possible day you can possibly imagine, or the hardest entire Sonora rally you could possibly imagine. Like, oh man, I barely finished that. That was so gnarly. Do that every day for 15 days. And so that's what I think is more important too, is like people have this goal and things like that. So if I do a training, I want to do it really properly. And with my schedule right now, it would be such a task.
Yeah.
So
I can, yeah. I mean, well, just like what you said, and just that little bit of downtime, because then you got to calculate in the jet lag, the sleeping schedule, all of that stuff, turning that all around. So we'll think future, we'll think positivity for the last question. So Louis got a fresh bike for you, ready to go. It's on a plane, and you just got to show up. What stage are you going to ride again? If you
for the Dakar?
No, anywhere in the world. What would be like? I wish I could do that stage all over again.
Dude, stage 3 of the Dakar this year.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, it was insane, dude. It was. I said on the TV, it was that like I don't think everyone else had my same feeling, but for whatever reason, I almost legitimately got emotional while I was racing.
Yeah.
So Mason opened that entire special, which was I think the longest day of the entire rally, and he opened every single kilometer of it, which is incredible. That's super sick, and I was incredibly impressed for it too. I caught him, I think, probably like 150 kilometers from the finish. I say caught him, but I was still probably like 20, 30 seconds behind him.
Yeah.
So I finally like actually caught up to him and
within
like,
range.
Went probably. Well, I got to the point where I was going to try and pass him, and then I went like 5 meters to the right of a waypoint and didn't validate it, and had to turn around, and he put like another minute on me when I had to do that. So he opened the whole stage, but I essentially rode by myself most of the stage. So I didn't have anyone else to like, you know, make the racing more exciting. It was literally just the terrain. It was just the stage. And we're almost riding into a rain cloud. Like later on that day, everyone else got completely rained out and like flooded, and they had to cancel the rest of the stage. So we lucked out perfectly. So it's this super dark clouds that we're going into in these incredible, like, rock structures, like these huge rock formations. It's like riding through either Canyonlands or Moab or Zion National Park, or like these huge, beautiful places times 10, like just massive. And then everything's green because it's been raining. The dirt's wet, and it's just like, it's great temperatures out. It's sandy, like fun tracks to ride through. And like I got through a couple areas that I was just like, there's no way. Like this would be a national park closed down. You could never like get off of a beaten path through here if this was anywhere in North America. Like, and we're riding our dirt bikes through it. Like this is so sick. It's the most epic conditions possible. It's incredibly beautiful. Like I'm like were doing a good job too. Like I was feeling the flow. I was riding good. Like everything was going solid that day. Everything. I was just like, I legitimately almost got emotional. I can't believe I get to do this. Like this is the coolest. This is so sick.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I don't know if I sent a message on it, but I swore you guys weren't even in Saudi. I just had never seen that side of, on any of the TV coverage or any of that stuff. And then, I mean, aside from the fact that it was raining, and all the hero dirt and everything like that, it looked from, this side of the pond, it looked amazing, but it sounds like it was it's pretty epic.
It was so sick. Probably like one of my favorite days on a motorcycle was a Moran night race in like 2000. Shoot, when was that? 2016, maybe something like that. And it was the same kind of thing, like just epic conditions. It was a night race, but it was close to Vegas. So you had the glow from Vegas. It was lightning, like super crazy, just like the most epic, fun bitching conditions ever. And that was always like my favorite time on a dirt bike, just because it was so epic. Like you couldn't have asked for better conditions and just cool stuff happening, like lightning and orange glow from Vegas and all this kind of stuff happening. But this one definitely takes the cake. Like going through that just unbelievable countryside and like terrain and whatever with those conditions, like just like heaven. Like you couldn't have dreamed of a better day. And I don't know, like I said, there's probably a lot of other people that didn't have that same feeling because they're so focused on the race. But that's what I was saying earlier. Like I want to enjoy as much as possible. So I think that's also why I'm able to stay more relaxed too during the races, because I try to look around a little bit more and enjoy it and take it in and get the experience as much as possible, because like obviously we're not going to be able to do this forever. So I want to enjoy every minute of it.
Well, like you said, you get to do this. So that's,
yeah, exactly.
It's awesome. Excellent, dude. Well, I really appreciate you taking the time. I know it's getting close to bedtime for you. So
big time.
We'll get there. Yeah, I know, right? You're still. It's
so
funny.
I'll see you at 3 a.m. though. I'll be up bright and early, ready to go.
I know. I'm the same. That's just I've somehow turned that into my normal work schedule now, and so yeah, I'm up at 4. But yeah, I see I have on my home screen still like, okay, what time is it in Riyadh? So I added a shortcut so I knew what time it was where you guys were at over there. So yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, it's completely backwards.
Yeah.
Nice, dude. Well, rest up again. Thank you very much for taking some time, and yeah, we'll see you. I'm going to be at Sonora, so I'm sure we'll see you down there.
Cool. Sick, dude. Yeah. Thanks for having me on, and we'll see you soon.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Take care.
Cool. Later.
Right, later. All right. There you have it. Rider number 10, 2023 Dakar Rally, Skyler Howes. Episode 102 of the podcast. Man, that is pretty amazing. I mean, as he just mentioned that he did say that in one of the interviews that we saw in the highlights and stuff like that, he did mention about like, hey, yeah, this was the best day on a dirt bike and riding and all that stuff. And I'm pretty sure I messaged him or made the comment that it doesn't even look like they're in Saudi Arabia. It was just absolutely epic. Just rocks, green, mountains. Obviously, with the rain, it was going to be hero dirt, whether it was sand or it was hard pack. Obviously, like you said, the rest of the field or the field towards the back did get a very different experience through there. Trying to survive the stage, but luckily it was cut a little bit short for them. But absolutely crazy. And man, it was an absolute adventure. And to see Skyler, the progression, like how we talked about a little bit, that it's been going up and up and up, and his mentality and how he's ride. I learned a lot in this conversation with him, and this is, I think the third time we've had him on the show. So absolutely excited and grateful that he took some time away from his busy schedule to talk with us and do so. But with that being said, just a couple of things. So just to recap on the show, when we were talking about 160 mile an hour speed limit, if you guys know, that was something that was introduced for this. So at the top, very top, fastest you could go is 160 kilometers per hour, which is right at 100 miles an hour speed limit. like I said, there's not a lot of places where you're going to hit that, but you can get up to that speed. Obviously, the pro level guys, like how he said, I had heard rumor of it, but it was confirmed that they do have a way of managing it. Not that it's going to be 100% foolproof, but it at least helps them a little bit. Whereas other bikes, it may not be as little. There's a lot of technical stuff to it to make that actually work. You can't just put, I'll just put a rev limiter, or I'll just put a speed limiter. Well, if it only had one gear, a rev limiter would work, but it doesn't. It has 5 gears, so you have to watch out for that. There's a lot of data that you're going to need to be able to manage it, but that's pretty technical stuff. And as much as I like it, I don't know all about it. Maybe we can get somebody on the show that knows a little more about it. We'll reach out. I'll make some calls. And also the importance of the cap headings, and that was something that came up a couple of times in the conversation, and talking about how cap heading, just being a degree off, can make a difference. You got to remember that when they talk cap headings, when they give out a number like 300 or 180 or 94 or 45 or 6, those are degrees on a compass, right? North, south, east, west. Then you have every degree in that, right? So if north is 0 or 360, and then 90 degrees is your east, south being 180, and then 270 is your west, you have all of those degrees in between. So all you got to do is be off by 1 degree for a certain amount of time, which isn't very much, and you will miss a waypoint. And it's very important. So I don't want to make it sound like it's detrimental, but it's something that, as your navigation skills increase, there's going to be road books. There's going to be road books where that is important, where they're not as complicated. And you'll see if you're reading a road book, like I'm looking at the road book in front of me, then it's not every single note that has a cap heading on it. So it's not like, oh my God, I got to deal with this every single note. It's not that way. And depending on where you go, and especially like we mentioned in the conversation we were talking about, is that the Dakar has been working very actively and proactively on slowing them down and making more notes that are complicated and adding to them. Like you mentioned, just having change in headings 3 different times in one note. Most road books, a lot of organizations would have already added a second note for that. So there's a lot to be said about it. There's a lot of training, but you know what? There's a lot easier ways. Like I said, there's more than one way to skin a cat. There's ways to be able to do the road books in a simpler fashion that is easy enough to learn. There's a lot of rally schools out there. We're going to bring you more information about that and getting a lot more resources for you guys. That's what we're focusing on this year. I'm trying to really help get more people into the sport with simple, not so fancy ways to make what you need happen to get out in front of some road books. So look for some stuff coming up on the social medias. And of course, as always, don't forget to like, share, subscribe. I really appreciate everybody that's been along for the journey, and to all of those people that rewind and are listening to this show, future listeners. I really appreciate you guys. I'm absolutely excited. Episode 100 of the Chasing Waypoints podcast is wrapped up. Very well done. 130 minutes. Wow. We were on the phone for a minute. Awesome. Anyway, with that being said, guys, remember, it'll make sense when you get there. Enjoy the ride. All right, that is a wrap for the Chasing Waypoints podcast this week. Hope you guys enjoyed the show. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you like what you heard. We are available on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and a bunch of others. Also, follow us on social media. You can find us on Facebook under Chasing Waypoints, Instagram, Chasing Waypoints _official, and of course, the YouTube under Chasing Waypoints. Hope everybody has a good week. We will see you guys for the next episode. Remember, shiny side up, and don't forget to tag us. We want to see where you guys are riding and what you guys are up to. Have a great week.